second. All right. So first thing I want to do is to ask you to look at a couple of questions for yourself. Okay? Does your weight ever make you feel uncomfortable? I'm sure it does. Have you ever tried to lose weight before? Have you ever lost weight and gained it back? Now, I understand the day-to-day struggle and the frustration of trying to lose weight. I've been there myself, and a little bit about myself. I was born overweight, okay? I've tried a lot of different diets over the years. You know, had a real problem as a kid, wondering and worrying about what others thought of me. I'm sure some of you, have had that experience. And I worked for a number of different weight loss clinics as I was going through my own struggles. My weight, would fluctuate between 20, 30 pounds a few years up and down. And I was really looking for a solution that went beyond dieting because I just got a sense that, whatever diet I tried, it didn't really make a difference. I was always able to lose some and gain it back. So I recognized there's something missing. And in that pursuit, I went back to school and I became a psychotherapist. And I developed a number of techniques through my clinical works. And over the past 20 years, I developed a coaching program. And I can really see what works for people and what doesn't, okay? I love doing this work. I'm very passionate about it. And I look forward to helping you as much as possible today. Now, I'm going to show you a completely different approach to lose weight and end the frustration of dieting and being overweight. I'm also going to give you a lot of tips and techniques that you can start using right away, okay? Now, the question is, how is this different? Well, it's not another diet-based program, okay? It's a revolutionary new coaching method and a series of clinically proven techniques designed to teach you how to use the power of your mind to stop emotional eating and lose weight permanently. Now, when we talk about the power of your mind, we're not talking about willpower. We're talking about your subconscious mind. And you'll see later on how this has a tremendous effect on everything you do, okay? Now, what happens along this journey of trying to lose weight is we progress and we progress and we hit a wall, okay? Now, my job tonight is to help you understand the wall beyond just willpower and so forth, and simplicity, and to help us move through that with a number of different techniques. Okay? Now, there is a conflict that we're going to talk much about as the fundamental problem in being able to get to the root of this and to take care of it for good. Okay? Now, the conflict is between the logical or the conscious mind and the emotion or the unconscious mind. Now, how much weight do you want to lose? Take a moment and think of that. 5 pounds, 20, 30, 50. We've seen results between 10 and over 100 pounds with all the people that we've worked with. Now, why do you want to lose weight? Some of us want to look better or feel better, or it's about health or energy, clothes, confidence. So what are the reasons that you want to lose weight? What is stopping you from consistently eating in the way that helps your weight? Is it a lack of willpower or motivation, a lack of self-control, maybe a lack of discipline? What's really stopping you? Now, we talked a moment ago about the logic. Your logical mind has a conversation with you that says, I want to lose weight. I want to look better or feel better or whatever the reason is that you want to lose weight. And on some level, your mind is telling you that you need to change your eating habits. If you do that, you'll lose the weight and all of these wonderful things that you want to happen will happen. It's very logical. Now, on the other hand, on the emotional side, we want to talk about over 29 reasons that people eat other than just pure hunger. Okay? Now, I'm just going to give you a small overview here. some people eat because they're stressed or anxious or bored or lonely or overwhelmed. I mean, there are so many different reasons that people do so. And reviewing these again, we want to look at how food can actually help you. So food can create a sense of calmness or comfort or reward you or treat you, give you a sense of instant gratification, soothe you, nurture you, and again, there's so many different reasons that we eat, okay? So what we want to do now is come back to that conflict between the emotion and the logic. So on the left side, again, we see all the reasons we want to lose weight and what the problems are as far as willpower, self-control. On the right, we see how food helps us, okay? Now, let's say you're about to eat some cake. Looks good, and you decide not to, okay? What are the benefits in that moment of not eating? So you're about to put the food in your mouth, okay? In that particular moment, let's go back here, is it possible that you will get some kind of comfort or some kind of reward or treat or instant gratification? Of course, in the moment, it's going to taste good. It's going to feel good. You're going to really enjoy this. So you're getting all these benefits somehow, okay? Now, if you decide not to have the cake, how will that help you in that moment? Will it affect your ability to lose weight in that moment? In other words, you're standing on a scale, you're about to eat this cake, you put the cake down. Will the scale move? No. So by avoiding the cake in that split second, it won't lose weight. It won't help you feel better about your body or your weight. Certainly won't make you look any better, right? Your clothes won't fit any better. Remember, this is all about in the moment. No more confidence, no health or energy benefits. The bottom line here is that there is no benefit in the moment to not eat the cake, right? And here, there are all these potential benefits to have the cake in the moment. Hi, it's me again. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened there. Anyhow, hopefully you're still here. So we're talking here about the benefits in the moment, okay? We just mentioned that there are no benefits in the moment if you don't eat the cake. And there are benefits of eating the cake in the moment. So why wouldn't you eat the cake? If you can get all the good stuff that we talked about a second ago, all this good stuff here from eating the food, and it won't affect anything, right? Why wouldn't you eat the cake? So what we do is we rationalize and say, I'll just eat this now, and, you know, I'll be good tomorrow, or start again my diet on Monday, or you know that. I'm sure you've all experienced that to some degree. So really, what we want to be able to do, bottom line, is to understand that by repeating this pattern of telling yourself, I'll just eat this now, you keep doing it over and over again, and you develop an unconscious habit which leads to mindless eating. Okay, so there's some part of you that's saying, well, I'll just eat this now. You keep doing that over and over and over again, guess what? You're going to just eat in the moment and not really care about that moment. So what we need to do is to change that program. Basically, a program is something that creates an unconscious habit. You know, doing something repetitively makes you do it without even knowing that you're doing it. And that's why sometimes we just catch ourselves eating. We don't even know what we're doing, but we're doing it anyways. Okay? So changing the program is vital to let go of that pattern. Now, the next conflict says that if you had unlimited power or self-control over food, it would help you avoid either eating too much or eating the wrong types of foods, right? So what I want to do is tell you a real story about willpower and self-control. Imagine that you're about to eat some chocolate or cookies and your fairy godmother appears and says to you, if you don't eat the chocolate or cookies now, you'll lose 20 pounds within 5 minutes and keep it off. Could you control yourself and not eat? Of course you could. Okay. So now you're saying that you do have self-control when you want to or choose to, when there's a benefit. Okay, this is very different than saying you lack control. Because by repeating this pattern, you develop a program again in your mind that thinks that you lack self-control or willpower. It's your thinking that determines whether you have control or not. Again, if the fairy godmother was there, I know it's a far stretch, but if your fairy godmother was there to tell you that you would lose the weight in a few minutes, then you would have the self-control. Okay, so you choose to use it. So this type of a program that says that you lack self-control has a very negative effect on your eating habits. So once again, what's the solution? To change the program. Now here's the third and final conflict, and then we'll start looking at exactly how to do this. If you take food away, you take away the emotional benefits of food, okay? So your logical mind's saying, don't eat, don't eat, don't eat. Makes sense. However, on the emotional side, the side where food makes you feel good, helps you with stress or anxiousness or boredom or any one of those 29 reasons, or creates calming, comfort, reward, or so many different things, okay? These are what are called emotional benefits, okay? When you take the food away, guess what? You're taking the emotional benefits away too, okay? And that's why diets don't work, because they don't really pay attention to the real reasons that you're wanting to eat, not just the taste, but the feelings that it gives you, the good feelings, the ability to deal with various things. So taking food away as a permanent solution just doesn't work, okay? So what is the solution? Well, don't take the food away. Duplicate the same emotional benefits that food gives you. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, if food helps you feel comfort, if there's a way that we can duplicate that feeling of comfort, then guess what? Your desire for food is going to drop off for that particular reason. If there's some way to duplicate relieving stress, which food may ordinarily do for you, then guess what? You won't really crave the food. You won't be driven to the food. So all of the reasons that you are eating, you know, whether it's 10 or 15 or whatever, and you need to understand those, if you're able to reproduce the same process that food gives you to create these benefits, you're just not going to have the same desire. It's not about willpower or discipline. It's about being able to get the rewards, the benefits, the good feelings that food gives you, and thereby, basically, just your desire will drop down significantly. So this is very powerful, and I want to just review it once again. The solution is to duplicate or reproduce the same emotional benefits or positive feelings that food gives you. When your emotions are satisfied and you have those positive feelings, you will naturally reduce your desire to eat too much or to eat the wrong types of foods. And this really works, okay? Now, How do we duplicate or reproduce the same emotional benefits or the positive feeling that food gives you? And more importantly, why does this work? Okay? Well, let's talk about habit. Habits are developed as a result of repeating something over and over again until it becomes an unconscious pattern. Now, you've probably been using food for quite some time to satisfy more than just simple hunger. So whether it's for enjoyment or for entertainment, comfort, deal with stress, whatever the reasons are, you probably didn't just start doing that, this week. So by repetition, you develop what's called an unconscious pattern. Okay, now let's look at how that works. Many of you probably drive, and when you're about to make a left-hand turn to a place that you've been to many times, let's say you're going home, okay, you've probably gone this route over and over and over and over again, repetition. That's what creates the unconscious habit. We call this a neural pathway, okay? It's kind of like a highway in your mind that is very wide, that's been widened by repetitious travel, okay? So imagine that your eating habits are like this. Repetition, automatic, mindless eating. Half the time you don't even know why you're there, but you're just doing it anyways, okay? Now, the trick is that we want to change the neural program, okay? So if we use this analogy and you were going to drive in England, where you're doing the complete opposite, you're driving on the left side of the road, you're sitting on the other side of the car, as long as you practice doing that, again, over and over again, even if it's 5 minutes a day, guess what? You're going to develop a new neural pathway in your brain which will make this habit unconscious, and you'll be able to do it, again, without even knowing that you're doing it. So that's why this process that I'm telling you about works, okay? It's not magic. It's exactly how your brain is functioning. Repetition is what produces habit. We want to develop a new neural program, a new way of thinking. You're going to notice that I'm not even going to mention food. This is not about a diet. It's about your thinking process and how your emotions react, okay? So let's start looking at some of the methodologies, the new ways of thinking, okay, that's going to bring you success. The first thing you want to look at is the possibility of your success. So let's look at your belief system about the possibility of you being successful. Okay, now what do I mean by that? Well, let's say success is losing all the weight that you want, keeping it off, and never dieting again. Okay, sound good? So that's what I'm going to call success. Now, I'm going to say that 0 means for you that it's not going to happen. So your belief says not going to happen, okay? And 10 means it's going to happen for sure. So you absolutely know it, okay? Now, take a moment here. On a scale of 0 to 10, how much do you believe you will lose the weight, keep it off, and never ever diet again? Be honest. 0 to 10. Okay. Let's say you believe it's 50-50. So 50% says, yeah, it's going to happen for sure. I'm definitely going to lose it. I'm definitely keeping it off, and I'm not dieting ever again. And 50% of you says, no, I don't think it's going to happen. Could your belief about your doubt affect your results? Is it possible that the fact that you believe on some level that it's not going to happen, do you think that has any impact on your results? Well, it's almost a redundant question because obviously it's going to. Now, how is that going to happen? It's going to happen, again, on an unconscious level. You're going to sabotage yourself. I'm going to give you a simple example. So you're back at the bakery. You're looking at all these cakes. You've already had a slice. Your mind says, I shouldn't be doing this anymore and having more. But that unconscious belief that says, no, I don't think I'm going to lose all the weight, pops up and develops a dialogue that says, you know what, why bother? Why should I not eat this cake if I'm not going to be successful? What's the point? And then guess what? We eat it and say, well, I'll start worrying about it, tomorrow or next week. So it completely short circuits our ability to follow through on our intention, which is to eat well. It doesn't happen in the moment consciously. In other words, you don't stand there and going, you know what, I don't think I'm going to lose the weight, so I'm going to eat this cake. It happens on an unconscious level. And it triggers this sabotage, this part of us, I'm sure you've all had it, that says, you know what, I don't care. I'm just going to enjoy it now. Okay? So once again, I'm going to invite you to consider changing your belief about the possibility of success. The first step is to challenge your belief. So why is it only 50-50 for you? Or why is it 80-20? Or whatever you happen to believe. Well, for most people, it's past history. I bet you it's for you guys too. I've failed in the past. I've lost weight and gained it back. I've tried several times. Do you think that has anything to do with your belief? Of course it does, So, if you can't change your past history, can you change your thought process? What am I talking about? Well, is it possible to succeed, to lose it, keep it off, never diet again? Is that humanly possible, regardless of your past history? Now, with all due respect, if you say it's not possible, that's what you believe to be true. It isn't the absolute truth. When people believe that the earth was flat, they really believed it. But their belief was not the truth. The truth is, obviously, the world was round, and I assure you that it is possible, it is humanly possible for you to succeed regardless of the past. Now, you might kind of fight that because of your past, but it's the thoughts that you are fighting, and if we can change your thinking process, I guarantee you, you will have a much stronger belief about succeeding, and that will help you in those moments when you're, trying to summon up some resolve, okay? So, changing our belief system about the possibility of success, huge. It's the foundation of being successful, okay? Now, the next thing we want to do is look at something really, really, really powerful, okay? It's your self-image, okay? How you see yourself, your body, and your weight, okay? And in order to demonstrate this, I want to go through a very simple model, okay? Now, the model says that our thinking determines how we feel, okay? How we feel will trigger a behavior or an action, and of course our actions produce some kind of results, okay? Pretty simple model. I want to show you the real power of it. Donald Trump, I'm sure you've all heard of him. His thinking process about himself, his self-perception is that he is a wealthy person, okay? And that produces a feeling of power when it comes to making money, okay? And that triggers him to take action. He's, involved in hotels and TV and real estate and whatever else he does. And of course, the results of that is the money, okay? Now, the money then reinforces how he sees himself. Make sense? And then how he sees himself again produces how he feels, which triggers what he does, back to the results and back here, okay? So the most important thing for you to get about this is his thinking is what creates his action. In other words, if he sees himself as a wealthy person, guess how he's going to act? He's certainly not going to get a paper route. He's going to do things that could generate a lot of money. It doesn't make sense for him to build little houses because he sees himself as, whatever, a billionaire or what have you. So whatever you're thinking will align your behavior or actions, okay? Now, why am I talking about Donald Trump? Well, what are your thoughts about your body and your weight? Take a moment. Be honest. Are they positive or are they negative? Here's a typical thought to describe one who is overweight, how they see themselves. I'm fat. I'm overweight. How do they feel? Frustrated, hopeless, and a whole host of other things. What are their actions? They either overeat or eat the wrong types of foods. What are the results? The extra weight. And going to our model again, the extra weight simply reinforces how they think of themselves. And that produces the feeling, that produces the actions, which then produces the results. And this goes round and round, okay? So, again, with all due respect, if you think of yourself as a fat, overweight person or flabby or whatever, if you think that way of yourself, you are much more likely, actually 83% more likely, to actually act like an overweight fat person. How does an overweight fat person act? They eat too much or eat the wrong types of foods, have extra weight, and this cycle continues, okay? Now, the diet model, no matter what it is, okay, which is telling you to focus on your eating, scientifically sound, but it does not in any way focus on your thought process. It only focuses on your action. It's telling you don't overeat. Eat this, don't eat that. However, if you think of yourself as a fat and overweight person, let's say you're back to the cake concept where you're about to have some cake, and your brain kicks in and says, you know what, I probably shouldn't have a third slice. If you see yourself as fat or overweight, that part of you is unconsciously creating a dialogue and says, you know what, this is what a fat or overweight person does. A fat or overweight person does who's frustrated, who's failed in the past, is obviously going to overeat because that's what makes sense to them, okay? So again, with all due respect, the diet is secondary. What you're eating obviously makes a difference, but what you're thinking is what will ultimately create the power of your actions, okay? It's kind of like the domino effect. So your thinking is like the first domino, and from that goes your feelings, your actions, and your behavior, okay? If this is not aligned correctly, you're going to have a very hard time fighting it, fighting the actions, fighting the eating, okay? Now, I really, really want to emphasize this again with a small little scenario. Sailboats, okay? They are generally guided by this down here called the rudder, okay? Now, if your rudder is pointed to the thought of I am fat, okay, guess what? It doesn't matter what kind of diets you go on or what you do, your underlying thought process of being fat is going to consistently bring you back to the actions of an overweight person. You know, I work with people who look at their pictures, you know, when they were younger, when they thought they were really overweight, and they look at them now and go, oh my God, I only wish I could look like that. Sound familiar? Well, they've been seeing themselves as overweight since that young time in their life. You know, they could have been 21, maybe 5, 10 pounds overweight, seeing themselves as overweight, training their mind to act that way unconsciously, and that'll just happen year after year after year after year, no matter what they actually weigh. I've had people who are even thin, who, like, they're anorexic, and they still see themselves as overweight, and they're you know, starving themselves. So I cannot emphasize how incredibly important it is for you to align your thinking process to your actions, okay? So moving right along from that, we want to look at something else that's incredibly important, and that is your relationship with food. Okay, now what is that? Well, you know, you have relationships with people, you have conversations, you have certain actions. So what you say about food and what you do with food is your relationship, okay? Now, the typical dieter says things like, you know, I should lose weight, right? Somebody who doesn't have a weight issue doesn't say that. I really should watch what I'm eating. Sound familiar? I should start dieting or being good tomorrow or something like that. Restricting the plan, following a specific meal plan, whatever it is, it's a plan that a dieter follows. Some of us eat secretly. Some of us feel guilty. Some of us say, I've blown it and I'll be good tomorrow. And so many different things, okay? Now, being in this, what I call diet mentality, will actually do the opposite of what you want. Depriving, restricting, willpower, discipline leads to rebelling, sabotaging, binging, and sort of that all or nothing way of thinking, okay? So in order to succeed, remember, that's losing the weight, keeping it off, and never dieting again. We need to change the diet mentality into a more neutral mentality, okay? Now, let me give you an example of this to simplify it. Again, let's go back to the cake bakery. So let's say you love cake, okay, and when you grew up, your family owned the best bakery in the city, okay, and it was a small little shop. Everything came out fresh, and you lived above it, and you know, you're a little kid, and you can smell it, and it smelled incredible. Fresh bread, pastries, the works. And one day, okay, your family sits you down and says, I'm sorry, but you're not allowed in the bakery anymore. You're banned. You cannot go to any other bakeries. You cannot eat any sweets, any cakes, any bread ever again for the rest of your life. Okay? I know it's a little bit extreme, but just go with me for a bit. This kind of models the diet. You're not allowed to have X, Y, Z, or you can't eat that much, or so forth. So it's the similar way of thinking where you're restricted or denied, okay? Now, in this scenario, if you're not allowed to be in the bakery ever again, what happens to your desire for bread and baked goods if you're not allowed? Well, obviously, it's going to go up, okay? And again, that's what typically happens to the dieter. You know, they are restricting certain foods, and they want them even more. So again, depriving, restricting leads to binging in the all-or-nothing factor. Now, going back to the scenario, let's say your family went away for a couple days, and there was a large order of cakes for a wedding, and last minute they cancel, and it's already been paid for, and you know, baker doesn't know what to do with it, and he's basically about to throw it out in the garbage, okay? And he basically sees you. He knows you love this stuff. He knows you've been banned and restricted. He's kind of friendly with you, knows your family's away, and says, hey, I'm going to let you have as much of this as you want. All you can eat, but it's this one-time opportunity only. And I won't tell anybody, you can't tell anybody, but this is at just one time only, okay? What do you think would happen, obviously, to your desire to eat quantity, okay? Well, obviously, it's going to go off the deep end for most of us, okay? And that's kind of what happens with the dieter, you know? We're good for the day or the week or the month, and then at night, you have something, and we've blown it. We've blown the diet. We're off track. So then it's like, well, what the heck? I might as well finish it off, eat the cake, eat the cookies, finish it all off, get it out of the house, because what? I'm going to start again tomorrow. And with all due respect again, guys, this is a vicious cycle that will never end. You know, how many times have you told yourself, I'm going to start again, I'm going to start again, and you're good for maybe a half a day or what have you. You go off track and boom, binge a little, start again. That will never end, okay? Because it's not about your willpower, it's about your relationship to food. When you deprive, guess what happens? You overdo it. Now, there is a way to change this, okay? And again, it's through your thinking process. It's very simple. But diets don't talk about this, okay? Go back to our scenario. Let's say, you know, half a year goes by, and your family sits you down and says, you know what, you're free. Again, you can go back into the bakery as much as you want, whenever you want. You may indulge for the first few days or weeks as you've been deprived, but after a while, just think about this. If you can actually go into the bakery, okay, anytime you want, have a slice of this cake, come back in 5 seconds, have a slice of that cake, come back in a minute, have a whole cake, okay? If that were the case, that you can eat as much as you want whenever you want, okay, what happens to your desire to binge in any one given moment? Well, obviously it's going to go down, okay? Why? Because there's no need to overindulge. If it's like water. You don't have to overdo water because you can have as much as you want whenever. There's no attachment. There's no emotion attached. There's no, that back and forth sort of, up and down, good and bad and all of that, okay? So basically what we're saying is the diet model doesn't work as a permanent solution, okay? What does work is having that relationship with food where you're free and you're not motivated to eat so much. Okay? Now that means you will have a little bit of everything here and there, just like the average person who doesn't have a weight issue. Now this might shock you and might scare the heck out of you. How can I possibly be free and eat well? Well, it might take you a little bit of time to, blow your brains out and be free and eat as much as you can. But I promise you, after a short period of time, your desire will drop. There will be no reason to motivate you to continue to overindulge. Okay? And you'll have a very healthy relationship with food, and that's what's sustainable permanently. This business of dieting, of off and on, back and forth, it doesn't work. Okay? Change the diet mentality into a more neutral or normal way of being. Okay? Now, change the way you think from diet to non-diet. These little points here that you see are various things that people say and do. We covered a few of those before. And what needs to happen, number one, is an understanding on a daily basis. What am I saying? What are you saying to yourself to keep you in that diet prison, to keep you blocked out of that bakery? What are you telling yourself? How are you acting? And every single day, when you notice the diet way of thinking, it needs to be neutralized to a non-diet way of thinking, okay? Now, let me give you a simple example of that. Let's say, again, you're at the bakery, there's some cake. When a person says, I should not eat that, boom, it triggers overindulging. If a person says, you know what, that's pretty high in fat and sugar, it'd be a good idea if I had maybe a very small piece of that today, okay? Or maybe it's a good idea not to have it so often. Now, you see, it's a very, very subtle distinction, but there's a huge difference between I shouldn't, I can't, it's bad, it's wrong, I've blown it, and it's okay to eat anything I want in moderation. Maybe today, it'd be a good idea to have a little bit less than I did last week or what have you. That's the way a so-called normal person actually behaves with food. Okay, it's the way people naturally exist who are what I call diet-free. So if the diet model does not work, and there are statistics that show that over 92% of traditional diets don't work as a long-term solution. If that isn't working, obviously the thinking process of a diet, which we've talked about, is a failure model. If you can't stick to a diet for the rest of your life, guess what? The first day you start it, you're on a path to failure, and then you start another diet. So what we want to do is to really, again, change our thinking and to model the thinking of a person who doesn't have a weight issue. Okay? How do they think? How do they act? What do they do? Okay? And when we begin to model ourselves after that, I guarantee you, things will shift. And it does involve, as I mentioned, to be aware day by day, how are you relating to food? What are you saying? There's some specific questions and things that you may want to do. But it's absolutely critical to let it go. Okay? All right, so now we want to look at another thing that's going to be very helpful. This is about increasing your awareness, okay? Now, the first thing you want to do in each moment when you're eating, after you've had a certain amount, is to check in with yourself and say, hey, am I truly hungry? You know, if I'm not hungry, what's really the benefit of eating other than the taste? You know, how am I feeling? Am I bored, anxious? Like, what's going on? You know, why is it that I'm at a movie theater and I'm eating my popcorn, and a few minutes later, my hand is touching an empty bag, and I'm not even aware of what the heck happened? You know, that's called mindless eating. Now, if you become aware in that moment that you're really not hungry, some of the time you might say, you know, well, why bother? Now, if you aren't hungry and you're aware, but you still want to eat, you might recognize that, hey, you know, what I'm really going for here is, sorry about that, what do I really need? Well, maybe I just need to, you know, reward myself or just instant gratification. When you become aware of why you are actually eating, other than just taste, it's going to short-circuit your desire very often, not all the time. Now, let me give you a very quick example of that. When I was growing up as a kid, you know, pizza was my, you know, my kryptonite, so to speak. I grew up with a bunch of guys, and we'd go out on the weekends, and, you know, we'd have a good time and have pizza. It was fun, and, you know, everybody was hungry, but we did that after dinner and so forth. So I have this very powerful association with pizza and fun. That's what it means to me. So sometimes, you know, in the evenings, if I've had a long week, there's a thought that pops into my mind that says, well, order a pizza. Go through this process that I just described that says, Rob, are you hungry? And I've trained myself to know that I'm not. And you probably are already aware of that. But then what has happened, I've trained myself to become aware of what it is that's really going on. And generally, 9 times out of 10, it's about feeling overworked, feeling that I haven't had enough fun and I need a reward and so forth. And by hearing myself say that to myself, I say, hey, Rob, you're not hungry, you're missing out on fun, you need to do something. Oftentimes I go, you know, do I really need the pizza? Now, I'm not on a diet, so I can eat 5 of them if I want. However, if I know that I'm not hungry and I know that I'm really looking for some fun, a lot of times I'm just like, well, why bother? You know, sometimes I even get online and order the pizza, you know, cook out all the toppings and da-da-da, and I don't hit the purchase button. And I've already gotten, you know, a good portion of my fun. Because the actual food, yeah, it tastes good, but that an illusion. You know, we think it's the taste of food that makes us feel so good. Well, that's not true. You know, I can eat a slice of pizza with, you know, 10 times as much cheese on it than is legally allowed. I'm a cheeseaholic. If I pass that along to somebody else, they will not like that. They're not going to feel good. So I promise you, it's not the taste, texture, or anything to do with the food you're eating. It's the emotion. It's the feeling that the food gives you. That's what you're after, okay? And again, diets say don't eat the food. Well, if food makes you have fun or makes you feel good, then the diet's saying don't have fun. And, you know, what do you get in return in the moment? It's not like you're going to lose any weight in that second. So again, become aware of what it is that's really going on. What am I trying to satisfy, okay? Now, once you're able to become aware of that, and you've done it for a period of time, you're really in touch with yourself, then you want to do the magic. You want to be able to duplicate the positive feelings that the food gives you. We talked about that earlier. Instead of taking away the food, which leaves you high and dry, let's recreate those benefits. How can Rob feel fun? How can Rob feel entertained? How can Rob lose the need to have the food? How can I get rid of those messages? Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about right now. Now, I'm just going to use some hypotheticals here. Okay, your story might be a little different. A lot of us eat to feel good, comfort, relax, cope with emotion, be satisfied, what have you. There are, as I mentioned, 29 different reasons. Okay. Now, assuming that you're using food other than just pure hunger and pure taste, if you can be in a calm, relaxed state, without any triggers, without any cravings, then it would be fair to say that we wouldn't need food for that. So again, if you can consistently feel calm, content, at peace, free of all negative feelings, free of those gnawing messages telling you, go eat, go do more, and so forth, if all of those were not present, you wouldn't need food to feel better. You know, if you feel good, you don't need food to feel better, okay? Now, there is an actual technique that has been developed called mind clearing. The mind clearing, the goal of the mind clearing is, as I mentioned, to consistently feel calm, content, at peace, and satisfied. To stop the unhealthy messages that we send to our mind to eat too much or eat the wrong types of food, okay? Now, let's do a little bit of an understanding here. Why can't we feel consistently, calm or content and peace and so forth? Well, many of you are going to chuckle. Life happens. Things at home or at work with your relationships, family, what have you. When things happen, we're not content and at peace. When something happens at work, when something happens at home, it's really stressful. At those particular moments, obviously, we're unable to be calm and content, okay? So again, our goal is to be calm, content, and at peace, free of all those messages. Now, I'm going to use this big yellow circle to represent these emotions. So let's say this is like the sun, just to give you a little bit of comparison, okay? Now, the question is, why can't it be sunny consistently? Okay? Well, the obvious answer are there are clouds in the sky, okay? Now, the interesting thing about it is that, for me, when it's raining, at its worst, the sun is still shining. We just don't see it down here because we basically are obstructed by the clouds, okay? So, in the same fashion, what I'm going to propose to you, and this is probably going to be, in my opinion, the most astounding thought that you could think. It's the simplest, but I believe it's astounding, okay? So, clouds get in the way of sun. Sun is always shining, right? Thoughts and feelings get in the way of feeling calm and content, okay? All those things that happen at work or at home or triggers negative thoughts and negative feelings for you, okay? Those are what stops you from being calm and content and at peace. So what I'm proposing to you, and I challenge any one of you, if you don't believe this, call me personally. I'd love to be able to show you how this is so true. And it's not because I'm telling you it is. It's just the way it is. You are consistently able at any given moment, if everything was the way you wanted it to be, so in any moment, you could be calm, you could be content, you could be at peace, right? Of course you could. The only thing that's stopping you from experiencing it moment by moment are thoughts and feelings. The absence of thought and feeling, like when we're on vacation or what have you, something like that, produces a more calm and content place, okay? So, basically, if we had a giant wind machine that can blow away these clouds consistently, I know it's a little bit over the top, but if that were to be true, it would consistently be sunny, right? In the same fashion, okay, if there is some way to consistently release these thoughts and feelings, and I mean consistently, you would consistently be calm, content, and at peace. Now, I'm also going to include in these thoughts this message that says, go to the fridge and eat. Go back for more. Eat this, eat that. All of these thoughts are preventing you from just being satisfied. So if there's some way that we can release these thoughts and feelings moment by moment, you will be satisfied. You will be content. You will have absolutely no desire to eat unless you're truly hungry. Okay? Now, how does this happen? Well, there's a part of your brain, which is something you were born with, called the release mechanism. And that is the ability to take your focus off of one thing and automatically put it on to something else. Okay? So let's give an example of that. Let's say you're watching a TV show, hockey game. You're really not happy about it. You know, family members watching it, and you're feeling angry and frustrated. Okay, so you're focused on that show. You're angry and frustrated. Okay, they leave. You take the channel changer, and you change your focus off of that hockey game, and maybe you're watching American Idol. Okay, now how long did that take? TV show A, bang bang. Okay, so you've used that mechanism in your brain, release your focus from this show onto that show. It's something that's already there. Okay, it's called the release mechanism. It's your ability to automatically take your focus off the hockey game and put it on to American Idol. Okay, make sense? All right. So coming back to the mind clearing, this is a technique to attach that release mechanism to your breathing. Now, why do we want to do that? Simple. Each time you breathe, you will activate the release mechanism and release the thought or feeling that triggers your craving in that moment. Release the thoughts and feelings. Leave you content and at peace and satisfied. Let go of the messages that are telling you to eat and to overeat and so forth. Okay? So what we do again is we take that release mechanism that's already in your brain, okay, and we show you how to attach that to your breath. Now there's a specific way that I work with clients, but you know, you have done this yourself. You know, I'm sure you've listened to music and you've taken your focus off of whatever you may have been thinking about during the day, if you are in nature. So we all have the ability to take our focus off something. And what I suggest is somehow you teach yourself how to trigger that release, that so-called changing the channel, and do it consistently. So you're consistently releasing it, and that's why I like to choose breathing, because you're automatically breathing breath by breath. So if you're automatically breathing, you're automatically releasing. Okay. One of the most simplest techniques. There is no thought involved in this. This is purely focusing on your internal release mechanism that already exists there. Okay. It's a fantastic technique. One of the most popular I've taught, and people get tremendous results, not just around this, but in so many other areas of their lives. Okay. Now, we're getting close to the end here, so I just want to go over a quick summary, and then I have a couple of good stuff to offer you. What we want to do is change the program in your mind that says, I'll just eat this now, critical. And we want to change the program that says that you lack control or willpower, because it's really not true, and it's really setting you up. Strengthen your belief for success to 100%. I guarantee you it's possible, 100% possible. And maybe it will, maybe it won't happen, that's up to you, but it is humanly possible. And if you have one shred of doubt, it's going to sabotage you. Okay? Next thing, you must change how you see yourself. It may be challenging if you look in the mirror to change your inner dialogue, but there are many different ways to do it. However you get there, critical. Then you want to let go of the diet mentality. I spoke about that a lot. Change your relationship with food. It just doesn't work to be on a diet. You know that. Okay? And the last thing, what we just talked about, is to be able to clear your mind. Okay? Release the thoughts or feeling that triggers your craving and creates a feeling of being content and at peace, and just really frees you up. Okay? Now, I'm just going to invite you to try a very simple 1-minute exercise with me right now that I believe is going to help you. And I want you to just consider, have you gotten any information or insights that you believe can help you tonight? Please take a moment and think about the information and tips, techniques, anything that was helpful. So this way, by thinking about it for a second, it's going to stay with you longer. So just take a moment. Okay. Now, I really, really want you to consider these next questions as your gateway. I'm going to ask some of you to consider even closing your eyes while you hear me speak about this, if you can. It's really important. What is the worst thing about being at your current weight? What's the worst thing, the thing that you like the least, the thing that really bugs you? Are you ready to lose weight for good and really have the body that you want? Now, you're all going to say yes. But what does ready mean? Ready means to get up and go. I mean, a lot of you who are on this call obviously have a sense of readiness. But there is a big difference between our to-do list and our done list. Our to-do lists are things we'd like to do. Our done lists are the things that get done. What is the difference? Why do things get done even though we say we want to do them? One reason, action. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but that's what gets us results. So are you truly ready to step out of your comfort zone and do whatever it might take, whether it's what I'm talking about or something else? It should be something that you are willing to stand up and go, I got to do it. Not I want to, I have to. I'm frustrated. It's not acceptable anymore. Those are the people that I have seen, that I've worked with, that are the most successful, is the ones that they just are unwilling to go another day the way they are. Now, if you're truly ready, do you think it's possible for you to lose the weight? Of course it is. Do you really, really, really want to? And do you truly feel you deserve it? Sit with that. Now, some of you have asked me about doing private one-on-one coaching together with me. I hope it's okay if I just take a couple of minutes to go over that and how it works. Okay, there's two very simple steps. Okay. Step number one, it's absolutely critical to find out everything that's stopping you from losing weight permanently. You know, I was talking about there's 29 different reasons people are unable to lose weight and keep it off, different eating, thinking, and so forth. Okay, I can help you find out exactly what's stopping you during one session with me. It's called awareness mapping. I've been doing this for about 20 years, and I guarantee you it will bring up anything, any belief systems, patterns, whatever is blocking you from being able to lose it, keep it off, and never diet again. Okay? Step one, it's awareness mapping. Now, during that same session, okay, in step two, still awareness mapping. So one session is 2 hours with me. So once we've determined all the reasons, okay, I'm going to show you a few simple mind-body techniques that are specifically designed for you to break through and to resolve the real underlying reasons, some of the things we've talked about that's really keeping you from just losing it and weight and just once and for all, okay? And your relationship to food, I promise, will change. Okay, and you will naturally reduce your desire to overeat or eat the wrong types of foods. So that's all done in what's called awareness mapping session. It's 90 minutes plus an assessment, so it's 2 hours in total. It can be done over the phone or in person. Available appointments daytime or evening, Monday to Friday, and we can even record your session and send it to you if you'd like. Now, we have a satisfaction guarantee policy. I am absolutely committed to an answer for you, each and every one of you, and I promise that there is one. If you do the session with me, and if you're not fully satisfied for any reason, you will receive a 100% refund within 24 hours. Okay. Now, the fees for the awareness mapping session is $295. And we do have a special program right now. It's a 50% off program. If you're willing to do an online survey, it takes about 20 minutes, we will give you 50% off the cost of the awareness mapping, and you will also receive a $100 gift certificate. So that will bring the price of the awareness mapping down to $95 from the $295. Okay? Now, we also will give you an additional bonus. You can, if you register for the awareness mapping, you will receive a free course on how to use the power of your mind to get what you want. And we ordinarily sell that for $70. Okay? Now, again, during the awareness mapping session, you'll understand all the underlying reasons that's stopping you, okay, from losing weight. You'll learn specific techniques to change your relationship with food and naturally reduce your desire to overeat. And I will show you how to use the power of your mind, your subconscious mind, to stop emotional eating, to lose weight permanently, and definitely feel a lot better. Okay? Now, should you decide you want to do this, you can pay by credit card, PayPal, debit card if you're in the United States. And if you're truly ready, okay, I talked about ready, if you're truly ready to lose weight and really never diet again, please register now. I'd love to work with you. Register at coachrobsugar.com or at 1-866-791-7546. And for those of you who are not viewing this on your screen, I'm going to repeat it. The website you can register right now, it's a secure website. You can use credit cards or what have you. It's www.coachrobsugar, it's all one word, .com. The sugar is spelled, believe it or not, the way it sounds. What you pour in your coffee. I know people don't believe me, but it's true. So the number again is 1-866-791-7546. I would like to thank Dr. David. He has been extremely generous. And thank you all for being present on the call. Hope you really gained a lot. And I look forward to working with you if you feel I can help you. Thank you very much. Good night.